What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. As you guys saw play out live on Instagram yesterday, Kailyn Lowry and her best friend of 15, maybe 16 years, Mark, have officially fallen out. So if you've been watching Teen Mom 2 since back in the 16 and pregnant days, you know who Mark is. Mark is, Kail's day one friend. He helped her move out of her mom's house when things hit the fan with her mom's then boyfriend, now husband. So he's been there for her since she was dead broke, like to where she could not even get her car out of the repo lot, right? And then he saw her go through all these relationships, a marriage, a divorce, and 3 baby daddies. He's been there for it all since the very beginning. So of course, he was incredibly pissed off when he heard her claim on her podcast that the reason why she stopped being friends with him was because he was demanding for her to spend thousands of dollars on his birthday. I don't even know if the number that she's claiming he wanted her to spend is in fact true. She's like, he rented a house and then he wanted everyone who was going to be staying there to pay. Understandable, that happens at birthday parties sometimes. And, I was going to have to pay for myself and my kids, and I wouldn't have had help or anything like that. And so it would have cost me about $3,000 to $4,000 to go to a place that's only 1 hour away from my own home. So it's not even a real vacation for my kids. I'm saving up because I'm building a house and I am also planning a vacation to the Dominican Republic. And so it just didn't make sense for me. And so Mark, catching wind of that, got incredibly pissed off and then wanted to tell his side of the story. And although I don't believe Kail's story 1000%, I don't believe it would have cost her $3,000 to $4,000 to go, stay in this random house where she is sharing the fee with other people. No way, no how. Okay. But Mark's side of the story, it seems as though a lot of people are automatically on his side, but I want to show you some things based on my own interaction with Mark and even stuff he said himself on his Instagram live video that, might give you a little bit of cause for pause. There will, of course, be receipts involved. So let's start at the very beginning. Mark was incredibly agitated when he finally heard Kail's podcast episode from a couple of weeks ago. And so he goes on his Instagram stories and posts, "One of my close friends got on her podcast and lied about many things concerning me. She's a liar, disrespectful, toxic, and unloving person. I don't need anyone like that in my life. If you're not for me, you're against me. So I'm moving on. I wash my hands." To everyone asking what happened, I will go live and explain everything tonight at 8 p.m. In response to his Instagram stories, Kail posted a couple of her own, claiming that boundaries are only a problem for the people who benefited from you not having any, which is, really kind of shady because it makes people kind of draw the conclusion that, her friends are using her for money or this or that, which I believe could not be further from the truth based on the fact that this person has been there for her since back in the day when she was dirt poor, probably borrowing money from friends to get by as a single parent, at 16, 17 years old. She also continued on to say something that was just so funny considering what we're going to get into later on in this video, which is how beautiful it is to stay silent when someone expects you to be enraged. And I say it's funny because Mark does his Instagram live, and guess what happens? Kail kept calling him in order to disrupt the live. What happened to staying silent, sis, and not being enraged? Meanwhile, you were calling 10, 20 times in the middle of an Instagram live like a whole ass clown. So anyway, let's get into Mark's Instagram live and everything that he said publicly before we get into what he said privately that might contradict him. So in his Instagram live, he claimed that the real reason that him and Kail fell out was not because she needed to spend $3,000 to $4,000 to go to this house that he was renting with his friends and, have no help or whatever. He said, first of all, that was definitely not the price because he was only going to charge her and not her kids, but she made it seem like she was going to have to pay for each kid who slept there as well. And then he's like, she also claimed that she would not have help, but that's not true. She was going to have 2 people, which we all know mean Nanny Natalie and Nanny Natalie's son to help her with the kids. Remember, those are her live-in helpers. And then he continued on to say that the real issue between them was the fact that the weather was a little bit shady. So at first, he wanted everyone to go to the beach and just party there. But then, the weather was looking a little, and so he's like, okay, well, let's go fishing instead. But then the weather brightened up again. So he wanted to go to the beach again. And so everybody agreed with it and he communicated it with Kale as well. And then at that point, she said, F you, no, we're not going to the beach. I already told my kids we're going fishing, so we are going fishing. And then she just kept cursing him out. And that's why they fell out, because he was like, what the heck is this disrespect? And, that is very understandable. It's weird to me that someone would curse you out over the way you want to spend your birthday, that they're there to support you on. But I can also understand Kale's frustration with the whole kids thing, that you already get them hyped up to do one thing after, she probably did tell them beach initially, that she hyped them up for the fishing, and now they're going back to beach. It can be annoying. And then he said that the thing that really was a straw that broke the camel's back for him was the fact that she told him, you don't have kids, so you wouldn't understand. And I was like, really? It's not the fact that she said F you on your birthday? And F your plans, basically? Okay. He's like, it really hurt me because I've been there for her kids since the very beginning. And I, look at them like, my own family and whatnot, which I do understand as well. And by the way, Kale's other arch nemesis, Brianna DeJesus and Becky Hayter, were in the live as well. We all know her beef with Brianna is that Brianna went behind her back and started dating her ex-husband. Totally understandable why Kale would hate her. That is very grimy. And then Becky was like one of her strongest supporters. And then she eventually gave up on Kale, in the midst of her on and off, again, toxic relationship with Chris Lopez. So Mark, in his Instagram live, claimed that he wasn't a messy person and he, was never going to do X, Y, or Z to Kale because, he still loves her and will always love her. But, after my own behind the scenes interactions with Mark, I've got to call BS on that. But before we even get into those receipts, let's talk about the stuff that he did publicly. Immediately after he announced his falling out from Kale, what happened, you guys? He goes on his Instagram, he posts all over his stories, and then he follows people who fell out with Kale and just don't like her anymore, right? He follows Brianna DeJesus, which goes without explanation. That's incredibly messy. And then he publicly comments on Chris Lopez's live that he wanted to talk to him. Very messy, right? And then he starts interacting with Watermelon, who always has incredible receipts on Kale. In fact, all of Kale's racist past tweets and stuff like that have been dug up, by Watermelon. And they're out there in the press right now. And Kale actually had her account deleted because she was so pissed off about it, right? And then not only that, but he starts discussing with me. But on our side, it was me who reached out to him. So I hit him up in the DMs and I said, hey, Mark, do you have a minute to let me know about what happened between you and Kale in the fallout? I'd love to set the record straight. I can keep you as an anonymous source if you'd like, or we can go live on my channel if you'd prefer that too. Let me know. And then he responds with, good evening, my love. As you know, me and Kailyn have fallen apart. I would love to let you know everything that has happened and years of tea that I've kept to myself too, dealing with Kailyn. I won't be silenced and the jig is up. And I go, oh, damn, there was some tea. He's telling me about tea. I was just going to ask him about why they fell out, but it seemed like he wanted to say everything about who Kale is behind the scenes. And that got real exciting for me. And then, I respond with, oh God, I can only imagine the SHIT you've seen and heard over the years. And so, are you down to do a live on my YouTube channel or a pre-recorded interview maybe? And then he goes, a pre-recorded interview would be nice. Whatever is easier for you. And so for there I go, okay, well, I'm free at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow or anytime on Wednesday. Does something in there work for you? And then he responds with, Wednesday evening would be good. I'll keep you posted on the time I'd be free. Is there a contract for pay for this interview? Isn't that interesting that he was asking me for pay in exchange for secrets on Kale? Messy, right? And then he responds a little bit later, a couple hours later, because I was already asleep at this point. And he goes, wow, so I just listened to Kale's podcast and she lied about the whole situation. Lied on me. I have a lot to say. Forget the pay. I'm ready to speak. And my girlfriend needs to say her piece as well. Wednesday evening around 6 is good for me. And so we agreed to the interview, but then at that point, I had mixed up Wednesday with Tuesday just based on like, the 6 hour time difference. And, I sent him a link to join me on, private interview line. And then I see him go on his Instagram live and talk about how he was going to be doing an Instagram live at 8 o'clock, which was a couple hours after I thought we were going to be doing an interview. So I was like, well, do you want to just go live on my channel? Like, what's going on here? And so then at that point, he's like, I don't want to be petty anymore. I've had a change of heart. But that's where things get even weirder because, a couple hours later, out comes an article from The Sun with an exclusive set of statements from Mark and his girlfriend. And The Sun is a very big tabloid that, yes, you guessed it, pays for stories. So in my opinion, if he could just be shady like that with me and not keep it 100, and then, him propose spilling tea on Kale, like in general, outside of this singular situation that I was asking about, in exchange for pay, I don't know that I would 1000% believe his version of events, especially with him getting up on live and, telling people, oh, I'm a genuine person. You know me. I'm this, I'm that, blah, blah, blah. When behind the scenes, that is not 100% true. And I also have to point out that it was also quite interesting to me how on his live, when someone said to him, oh, you should have an MTV show, he goes, I would love that. I've got a lot of content ideas for MTV. If I were Kale, that would make me kind of look at him a little bit sideways as well, because it's like, okay, well, now here you are behind the scenes, trying to barter money for information on me personally. And now here you are publicly, hoping to get a show on the network that I work on. It's giving weird. It's giving weird, you guys. It is a little bit. And then a little bit later on, he, at the end of the stream, after he talks a little bit about the singular situation with Kale, which is the beef over the birthday, he starts promoting his music. He's like, by the way, you guys, I make music, blah, blah, blah. And to me, I'm kind of like, okay, I feel two ways about it. On the first hand, I'm like, okay, well, again, another kind of like odd thing that you're doing here. It's like, are you sharing your side of the story because you want to clear your name, or because you want to capitalize off of it and, get something going for your music career, right? But at the same time, I can't be down on him too much there because Kale does the same thing. Remember when in the last blow up with herself and Brianna, what happened right after? She started promoting all of her books and she started promoting her podcast. So I'm going to go back there and say that I think that that's fair for him. But, otherwise the whole him asking me for money in exchange for like a bunch of tea on Kale when I asked about the breakdown of their friendship, I felt like that was quite shady. And then him claiming that he had a change of heart, then going, behind the scenes and what I'm assuming is getting paid for an interview by a big tabloid magazine is a bit shady. So I say all of this to say that at the end of the day, we all know that Kale is a pathological liar, but we don't know Mark as well as we know Kale because he's not, on the show as a regular or anything like that. So I just wanted to share a little bit of context on, what I've kind of noticed about him based on like our own interactions to kind of paint a little bit more of a picture there for you guys. At the end of the day, I don't think Kale was being 100% honest about the reason for their falling out. I don't believe she needed to pay $3,000 to $4,000. I don't believe she wouldn't have had her nanny and her, nanny's son there to help her. But at the same time, I also don't really believe Mark's version of events. I do believe that he probably did ask her to pay at least half for her kids instead of paying for 4, pay for 2. You know what I mean? Like something was going on there. Or maybe he asked her to pay a little bit more for food because she would have like 5, 6 people there, like, as part of her team. I think something happened there that they're both kind of like meddling the details on, and the truth lies somewhere in the middle. How do you feel about the drama between Kale and her former friend of 15, 16 years, Mark? Are they both blowing the situation out of proportion and not telling the truth? Is Mark a little bit shadier than he leads on? Make sure to let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And as usual, wall tap. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.